Rescue Op. Save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong?
Hello, welcome to the Fallen Kingdom Minute, where we return to Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And here we are back to discuss Minute 4 of Fallen Kingdom. But before we get to that, David, again, heading over to IMDb. We have an entry here up for the mercenary technician we see in this episode, in these next few minutes. Robert M's British actor. Again, like the two pilot mercenaries, not a lot here from his IMDb that is familiar.
Yeah, I've not seen any of these actors, neither the two in the previous minute that we mentioned, nor this guy in really anything.
He reminds me of one of the scientists in Prometheus, but we probably shouldn't go into that. So yeah, the link for the article here is on the run sheet we get with the show notes for the episode when it comes out.
Here's some bug spray. Bug spray. The T-Rex would be dead by now, right?
No, it's impossible to know the max lifespan of a clone in a completely different environment. Take a caveman that would have lived 20 years. Feed him prime meals, give him health care. He's going to live 5 times as long.
So she'd be dead by now, right?
Dave, ready to get a Minute 4 of Fallen Kingdom?
I am.
Alright, Minute 4 of Fallen Kingdom opens with the submersible after the Indominus Rex and ends with Marine 1 leaving the Fallen hybrid in the dark water. As we open on Minute 4, as the robotic arm grips the Indominus rib bone, a little saw appears on the other arm and moves forward to cut the bone free from the body. Surely they could give it a little bit of a tug and it would come away, considering it's been underwater for 6 months. And they are after the DNA to make the Indoraptor. I'm guessing this bit of rib bone they're going after will be enough for that. I'm sure Wu gave them a brief of how much bone to get, because they are pretty accurate with their sawing here, because later on we see the bone in the container. There's probably under an inch of space either side, so luckily they cut it to the right dimensions to fit in that storage container.
Well, it's kind of one of those Hollywood magic moments where the container they brought just so happens to just fit the sample they take.
Yeah, the sample they've never seen before. Or
exactly. Like, they don't know how much they're going to be able to cut. They're not going to know if it's going to fit the box they brought. But yeah, somehow it just does. You don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Marvel. There's a lot of Marvel stuff there.
Exactly. Marvel's one of the worst offenders. Sorry, Marvel MCU fans, but you know it to be true.
Yep, and now it's leached into Jurassic World or into Fallen Kingdom. Also, it makes me wonder too that with the skeleton being under the salt water for so long, whether the rib bone would be the best place to get DNA. Again, we would have told him the rib bone's fine, but you'd think a bit of spine or neck or something where there's a bit more DNA, or even a femur.
Sure, I mean, like, the vertebrae will probably still contain parts of the nervous system, and that will probably give you a better, like you said, a better sample than just the bone alone. But at this point, the bone is still fresh relatively, and it's still gonna pretty much have good amount of pure DNA in it.
Yeah. And obviously, looking at the skeleton on the ground, the ribs are still intact. They're not cracked. They haven't been chewed on or anything else, it seems, as well. So, but as soon as the piece is cut free, it's weird. It's like going back to Marvel, Iron Man. It's just the claws grab the rib, and all of a sudden it detaches from the well, no, not Iron Man. It'd be more old Gundam Power Fist, where the clawed hand sort of detaches from the arm, and all of a sudden a inflatable bag inflates and it starts its journey to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And as we pan up to see the flashing beacon carrying the bone upwards, we get a flash of lightning above the water and the silhouette of something massive swimming overhead, which our first sign that they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Obviously, the mosasaur must swim over before the floating bag gets to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because we cut to the surface as the storm continues to rage on, and we can see someone working on a portable generator. And as we move closer, we can hear over the radio, specimen collected, sent to the surface.
You know, it's kind of funny. I'm almost surprised that they didn't make that reference in this scene, just because, I mean, Jaws is owned by Universal and Amblin, so they're completely free to make the reference if they wanted to. You know?
Well, it's weird.
I mean, Nedry's actually watching Jaws in the first movie. So there's a little Easter egg. It's like only a couple of seconds of it, but it's on his back. It's on his screen in the background.
Well, we do sort of get it in the score, not so much for here, but more so when the Tyrannosaur is stalking this guy. Like in the next couple of minutes, we sort of get that semi-Jaws theme in the score. But it would have suited here for the underwater stuff a lot more. One thing that got me here, that where this guy is crouched by the generators, it's off the side of the promenade of Main Street, and not at the lagoon gates, where you mentioned earlier on that they would have had to tie into the power system, and it wouldn't be just a matter of hooking a set of jumper cables up to the gates and having them open. They've had to hack into the system here. But it's just weird again, like I mentioned in the opening minutes, more of these generator work light floodlights here, and several generators around what looked like a workshop. I thought originally they'd brought this generator in to access the power grid and get the gates open, and then use the tablet to open it with the systems. But I would have thought this should have been happening at the gates and not at Main Street, because if you're plugging a generator here, then you're going to be powering a lot more than just those gates on the other side of the lagoon. And again, we're going to bring this up again later in the film. Why can't you just go to the control room? There's something happened to the control room. We can't go there in Camp Cretaceous. We can't go there now, and we can't go there later when they need to track Blue. It just frustrates me. I want to see ruined control room, damn it.
In Camp Cretaceous, the kids are kind of always avoiding Main Street simply because they know Rexy has staked her territory on Main Street, but these robbers are kind of at the disadvantage of not knowing that. So it kind of makes you wonder, why didn't they go try the control room like you said? I mean, they wouldn't have known that Rexy has staked her territory here.
And it's far enough off Main Street, you could probably get to it without getting on Rexy's radar. But the other thing with all the lights here, as I said earlier, making it seem like a much bigger operation, it sort of reminds me back to the Lost World novel, where InGen went in and cleared all the technology out of Sauna. It makes me think here, for all these work lights and that Masrani went back after the evacuation and maybe stripped some of the place. And these lights and generators are just stuff left behind from that.
But we know they didn't, because otherwise the kids would have probably either heard the helicopters or they would have found them or something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And it wouldn't have been a two-man crew doing it. It would have been a big operation.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's like deconstruction.
Yeah, yep. The guy at the generator confirms the report and turns to tell Air 1 clear for takeoff and begin tracking. And as we can see, a helicopter further down the street, powering up. He yells go, and we can hear the pilot over the radio saying tracking on. So they're going to pluck that sample from the water. Oddly, we don't see it. We just hear over the radio that he's got it. So as the chopper lifts off, we cut to something moving in the bushes as the guy at the generator turns to look in that direction. I should have mentioned minute one, we're watching this on iTunes movies that I purchased the film. There's no Dilophosaur hoot in this version that I'm watching.
Yes, that is kind of the strange thing. It was like that in the theatrical release too, where some releases in theaters got the hoot sound effect, some didn't. My theater didn't, but my home release did.
Oh, weird.
It is the weirdest inconsistency, and it seems to be just kind of a luck of the draw thing.
Because I was going to bring up the whole Dilophosaur in the room. It's just a shame that the canon's sort of getting a bit convoluted. We're told that Rexy was the only surviving animal from the park. We didn't get to see or hear a Dilophosaur in Jurassic World apart from the hologram. I can't remember what I was watching now, but they were on Kahlua Ranch or in the jungle somewhere, and you could hear the Dilophosaur hoot from a bird in the background, which made me think if there's a real life bird in the world that makes that sound.
There's a swan.
Yeah, so
they sourced a swan for that cooing sound that the Dilophosaur makes.
So it's quite possible that, okay, the fans are going to go straight to Dilophosaur, but it could be just we are next to the water. Maybe a swan built a nest in Main Street in the arcade here or something. But because that's a real life animal and it's a real life sound, and because we don't see the Dilophosaur later in the film because of a cutscene we'll get to, it could just mean that no, there is no Dilophosaur in this film, and having the inconsistency with the sound as well just sort of leans to that as well, which is a shame.
The thing is that I know that they originally intended for Velociraptor to have actually been part of this scene, but they just kind of cut it because they felt Rexy was enough. And they had retextured the 3D CGI model from the hologram from the first movie for the scene so that it was actually like a solid texture, not just a hologram. But ended up not using it because, as I said, it was they felt it would have been overcrowded with dinosaurs. Like all of a sudden the dinosaurs all converge at this spot at the same time.
Well, we know from the end of Fallen Kingdom that Main Street is hers again, and of course Camp Cretaceous, which we hadn't seen at this point, but she's nested in her old enclosure and is hunting the area. So, of course, if people are going to come back to Main Street, Rexy should be the one that they come across. But we cut to the lagoon surfaces, the inflatable bag surfaces. The pilot reports the inland one, the asset is secure. We got what we came for, coming back to you, and close the doors. Even though at that point they're just hovering above the asset and haven't actually recovered it yet. So they're optimistic that they're going to be able to get it. We don't see a long fishing pole or anything, so not quite sure how, but they obviously get the asset back in the helicopter. Back with Land 1, he begins unplugging the cable to his tablet computer, and over the radio tells Marine 1 to get out of there. I've got to close the gates. And in the sub, the black guy confirms, understood, we're moving out. Which makes me wonder why they're still here. They've got it, the bag's away. Why? What are you waiting for? maybe to make sure the helicopter does get it. But you've just lost your arm in an inflatable bag, so I don't know if there's any backup arms they can use to secure another sample. And as the minute ends, the sub begins to back away from the indominus skeleton as it fades back into the eerie darkness. So that's our one little indominus cameo for Fallen Kingdom. Its legacy is going to be felt going forward when we get back to Lockwood's Manor and what Wu's been doing there for Mills. But Dave, I think that's enough for minute 4. How about we get heavy for the week?
All right, sounds good.